Alright, so we got a quorum. We have 4, so we're good to go.
Yep.
Get through the minutes of the meeting anyways, before Anthony gets here. Give
Who's
him,
gonna take minutes? Do you want me to start them, I guess, or are you gonna take them?
I can.
Oh, you're gonna take them? Okay.
thank you, Richard. Okay, so this is the start of the Rutland Town Charter Committee meeting for December 18th, 2025. First item on the agenda is to accept the minutes from the, I believe it was the December 30th meeting. Anybody,
What was that date?
Or October 30th.
October 30th, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you, I'm sorry. October 30th meeting. Do we have a motion to accept those minutes?
I made a motion to accept the meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Richard, second, thank you. Do we have any discussion on those meeting minutes?
So I just want to review them again. I just looked at them earlier, but everything looked fine to me.
All right, so hearing none, you need some time, Michelle?
No, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay, so, Tony, you good with the minutes?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, so all in favor? Aye, to accept the
Aye.
minutes as proposed? Any nays? Hearing none, passes unanimous, so those minutes are done. All right, and we will wait for Attorney Wilson to join us. And, or Becca, do you want to start? I mean, do you
Yeah, we can get started.
start on this, right?
You can hop in.
This is, Anthony did send out the draft, a whole complete draft out to everybody. And there was some highlighted sections, I believe those are the ones you wanted to go over, correct?
Correct.
And I think 6.3 is the first section.
Yeah, so that's language that, we had talked about the removal process in the last meeting, and my understanding was that the committee wanted to keep a process for removal from that committee. So I think we're just looking to confirm that. So that's the finance committee.
Okay, so that's the finance committee. It technically is a volunteer committee. They get appointed, but they have to volunteer. They're picked and volunteer to do it. It's not a paid. It's not a voted.
Yeah, I think Anthony's, the reason that I think he points it out is in a time where it can be very challenging to get volunteers to come to the table, do you really want to have a removal process for somebody who's volunteering their time? And the answer can still be yes, but it's just food for thought.
And we don't have a removal process written into the charter for any other board, even though this board is somewhat different with, it's in the bylaws.
I just want to go. So it says Article 1. So per the process defined in Article 1, Chapter 1, Article 2, 2.5.
The state laws.
Hey guys, it's Leah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Leah.
Hi, Leah.
Hi. Sorry I'm a little late. I'm on my way. The concert just ended. But I think you're talking about the removal process.
Correct.
Yeah.
A new addition to the bylaw for the appointed boards and committees. And a little bit of history is in the past there have been individuals on boards and committees that haven't participated in many, many, many meetings. Like months worth of meetings, and have prevented the business of the committee from getting done because they
in this section highlighted, it's Michelle. It's the section just under the finance committee. This is just referring to the finance committee. We don't have this language in any other section for any other committee, so it's just a section that was pulled from the bylaws.
Can someone help me too? I have a question.
Yeah,
Because it says, for cause following the process defined in chapter 1, article 2.
of the state laws.
Oh, so that's not this charter. 'Cause I'm like, I
Because
can't
was
find it in
looking
the charter.
for- Yeah,
Or
all
it's-
right.
I'm like, where is this thing?
Or it's the bylaws. Or it's the
Is
bylaws.
that,
I'm not
oh, is
sure.
that the
I
bylaw?
think it's the bylaws.
Oh,
Let's see.
okay. I don't know what that funny little thing is in front of the 5.
It should be specified that it's the bylaw.
Because it almost, I mean, I just thought it was this, and I'm trying to find it, and I
Yeah.
cannot find it in Article 1.
Yeah.
So,
You're not alone,
is
yeah.
that, does anybody have, the,
Excellent
but,
question.
I thank you. Because I'm interested to see what that, is that a process for all committees, or is that, because if it is, why do we have to have something special in here for the finance committee? If it's already a bylaw, let's just let it be. And then,
So yeah, I'm not sure, I'm driving, so I can't look right this minute, I need to reference both, but I wonder if it's different for FinCom because they're appointed differently. Because I know that was some of the conversation around all the bylaws, like the bylaws with the removal piece, is how to make it, so to try to like depoliticize it as much as possible, like make it what's kind of best for the being able to get business done. But because FinCom is appointed solely by the moderator, how that looks. And like I said, once I get there, I'll go back and
Do you
cross-reference
wanna,
both.
I can
Sorry.
flip over to it. It's, so the bylaw, Chris, it is the bylaw and it's specific to all appointed committees.
okay, so the bylaw is all appointed
All
committees.
committee, chapter, section 5,
So-
committee member removal, any committee member may be removed. So, in my appointed, said member shall be given a hearing before the appointing authority, which would be, in this case, the town moderator, written notice, answer charge. I mean, the bylaws are really
Detailed?
detailed.
Yeah.
You got it there too, Richard?
Well, no, I'm just saying in general, it's much more detailed than the charter would be. Where is that document?
I just Googled town
Oh,
of Rutland,
it's
general
pub-
bylaws, yeah,
okay.
it's the general bylaws.
But it's for everything, it's not just specific?
Right, it's for everything. I know, covers everything. The bylaws are really, really good.
Leah, do you know if the most recent bylaws with amendments should be dated May 11, 2024?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And one of the, just if you can look at the bylaw for FinCom to see if that calls out anything separately from
Oh,
the
yeah.
removal. I can't remember. I
Yeah.
remember there was conversation about all of it, but I don't remember the specifics of the bylaw. Sorry, guys.
No, you're fine.
Because it sounds like Anthony and Becca are saying remove that because it doesn't really belong
Yeah.
there, is that what you're saying?
You could remove it and, if the charter was silent, then the bylaw would still apply,
Okay.
just like it does for all the, the finance committee is one of the only committees that's enshrined in the charter, which is one of the reasons you see language around removal. Like all the other committees, they're not in the charter, they're in the bylaws.
Right.
Anthony said that he's in the waiting room, by the way. I'm not sure if you can see him.
Hopefully you
I
got the
texted-
other link.
Check with him if you went to the new link. You don't see him in
I
there?
just sent the new link out 10 minutes ago. So, because I haven't seen him appear, because Leah appeared in the waiting room, I let her, and I've been keeping an eye out on that.
All right, so the interesting thing about that bylaw is it states, has a hearing by its appointing authority.
Which would be.
But to have a one person appointed, in like all other committees, you're pretty much approved by the select board, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know of any other board or committee that doesn't go through the select board other than, that group.
Well,
So that would say you're just gonna go back to the moderator, and what kind of process is that?
but it would probably be the select board because the select board has to ratify.
Well, they ratify it, but they're not
Yeah.
the appointing authority.
The
The
responsibilities.
moderator appoints them.
Yeah, in the bylaws it says the responsibilities ascribed to the appointing authority and the removal proceeding shall be performed by a joint body comprised of the select board and the town moderator.
Okay, oh, it goes on, I didn't see, I
What
didn't read
section
that.
was that in?
Thank you.
That's in
I'm not-
section 6 of
Okay,
Article 3.
alright, so it's not just a one-man witch hunt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's just not,
Like this,
Yeah.
yeah.
like,
So
you
Leah,
know.
what we just found was finance has their own member removal thing in the
Bylaws.
bylaws, under finance committee.
Yeah.
But all of the committees too have the same process.
Right.
So, at least from that point, it's not just this finance committee, because that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
If it was just a one committee, I'd say, hey, wait a minute, it's either gotta be consistent for all, or we do nothing, you know,
So
right?
it doesn't really need to be in the charter then, right?
Where's the
Yeah, I
language
think it was
about
pasted.
the
or it's-
town
yeah,
administrator
it was
and the
same
select
text, I
board?
think.
In the bylaws, it is, section, chapter 3, article 3, finance committee, section 6.
So we would have to reference
Okay.
that.
Well, I don't think we
Should
even
that
need
be a
that
D?
section in there, do
Well,
we?
that's the discussion, right? So if we do have it, we should reference that.
Depending on what
If we
keep,
just don't
yeah.
need this, it all goes away, right?
Well, if it's already, if that's all in there.
In the
then
bylaws.
A is the only thing that you need to put.
Right.
I don't even think we need anything in that section, do we?
We don't have it for any other,
Right.
I think it's too nitty gritty.
Yeah.
I mean, the bylaws have it, that's what
Because
the
if
bylaws
somebody
are
wanted
for.
to remove somebody, they'd say, what are the bylaws?
Yeah,
say?"
the bylaws.
Yeah.
I agree with you guys, and I think it should just stay in the bylaw, because I think the charter is just basically saying, we have a FinCom, this is how this is their duties, and this is how they're appointed, and then, like, very broadly, and then it goes
Is that the bylaw?
how they're, they
So,
fit into the budgeting
Article
process,
2
and
is
everything
just
else.
for appointed committees.
Okay, just to play the devil's advocate, Leo, and everybody, telling everybody in line,
Article 3.
should the charter, because the bylaw can be changed every year, should the charter define this for all committees?
Will someone
Like-
want to go
Oh,
and change
yeah,
it?
because then it could get swampy. It could get,
Well, then you get this year, you know, year to year, like pull and push, and, you know, I'm not sure if that's been the case. I don't think you really have to, but I'm just kinda,
yeah.
I'm not saying that's what I wanna do. I'm just asking that question, because quite honestly, I think I'm in favor personally of just wiping this out, but I just wanna bring this, I'm just thinking in my head, so I'm thinking out loud here. You know, does the charter kinda keep things on the rails for 5 to 10 years, so it's not always some type of political, you know, back and forth? I don't think it's that big of a deal, but, you know. Good evening. How are you? We approved your wonderful meeting minutes a while ago, and we're discussing, section 6-3. Ryan just joined us, here in person. Committee members may be removed for cause of the following persons in accordance with chapter 1, article 2, which is of the bylaws. So Anthony and Becca brought this up, that, is this something you guys really wanna do? It's kinda out there. It's not something that's very common, correct, Becca? It's kinda more of a little too detail weedy.
I wouldn't say it's uncommon, but, you know, it's a preference. You already have the language in the bylaw though,
So
so.
I was gonna say, it's
Yeah.
a
Unless you
redundant,
change
it's
the
just
bylaw
redundant.
too,
Yeah.
they're
But
still
if
gonna
the
be
bylaws
they're still gonna
were
be held to
changed-
that process.
And like Leah was saying, they're working on a home rule thing to change the
Is that
member removal process anyway. Is that correct, Leah?
So the special act is for elected officials.
Oh, okay.
Because when the bylaw passed with the removal process for appointed, there was nothing for elected. And I think across the state, and Becca, you might be able to speak more to it, across the state, more and more municipalities seem to be putting something in for elected, not so much appointed. So because we did appointed, we felt that there should be electeds also. Oh, like, you know, like, but I kind of am to circle back to kind of, I think, Chris, your point. I think keeping it in the bylaw, we have an official bylaw committee now. It's not a subcommittee or anything, it's an official bylaw, and they review the bylaws. They're charged, I forget how often they're supposed to review the bylaws, but, and they take feedback and everything. So I haven't seen anything with the bylaws becoming, like super, you know, there's a process for it. So I think that it warrants staying in
Okay,
So it sounds like scrub section
Yeah.
6.3.
sounds like it, and quite honestly, leaving it in here would just strengthen that bylaw so you couldn't change it for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna lock yourself in for 10 years after the first 5, so, that seems a little kinda, that's almost too long personally if you wanna change something like this, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I think the bylaw or the charter should really be kind of establishing, setting that FinCom or any, that FinCom exists, how their appointment is, what their roles and responsibilities are, and how they fit into the budgeting process. But then the other pieces, I think, are more bylaw specific or policy
Yeah,
specific.
and correct me if I'm wrong, everyone, but we don't have any other like disciplinary things in this charter anywhere, do we?
No.
I mean, I don't remember discussing anything like that
Okay,
for anybody else.
We can go back and start over. No?
I thought this was more just a pathway to, like Leah suggested, elected officials. If they become defunct or they're not performing their duties, but we're already doing that somewhere.
Yeah, that's a special act, that's a
And
different
the
process.
clarification for the bylaws, right? Or not a clarification, but something to go by to clear up
Codify them to
clear
a
up the
degree,
gray
right?
areas.
Yeah, but I don't think it's gray, I mean, it's pretty cut and
No.
dry.
It's redundant.
Alright,
This is
so we
redundant.
all in agreement just to,
Welcome, Anthony. Sorry, I don't know how long you're waiting in the waiting room, but I'm glad you're here.
No problem. Good to be here.
Yeah, we've only been discussing the section 6.3 member removal for FinCom. That's right. That's all we've
Yeah.
just been.
Yeah. And it sounds like we've come to the consensus as a committee, and if anybody's online, please just shout out, because I can't see if your hand's up, but, I think everybody agrees we should just remove it.
Yeah.
And just,
Agreed.
it's what the bylaw is, so we're not changing
Yeah.
anything
It's already
by
stated.
removing it, it's stated in the bylaw, and so it is, and so it shall be there, and let's not get too definitive or really disciplinary with this thing, that's kinda weird. Okay,
There
So
were a
that's-
couple sections ahead of this that we skipped.
oh, did I miss something earlier than this?
Yeah.
Okay, what section, Michelle?
From the town administrator.
Okay, all right, yeah, I got that, the town administrator. Okay, so that is,
Well, you can actually go down because it actually is gonna come up in the financial procedure section, so this is a new thing that we highlighted.
Oh,
The notes
Okay.
I have in there about, well, Becca's in the room and maybe she can explain it better, but you've got some maybe competing responsibilities around the capital plan between the finance committee and between the capital planning committee and the town administrator.
Okay.
So, I'll summarize while we're already here. So, the gist of it is, do you want the capital plan to be the responsibility of the town administrator, or do you want it to be the responsibility of the capital planning committee?
why can't it be both somehow? Or like the committee could be the driving force, but then consult with I don't know.
No, that's correct. I mean, there's several ways that we can set it up. Becca, did you want to share? I see you.
So you had, well, frankly, you had a town administrator act that was in conflict with the CIPC bylaw. Because you have a town administrator act that says, town administrator is responsible for all budgeting, operating, and capital. And then you had a CIPC bylaw that said, the capital plan shall be developed by a capital improvement planning committee. Two people can't be responsible for
the same thing.
the same thing. And it gets dicey when it's not clear about whose responsibility it is, then which plan does the select board accept, which plan goes to town meeting. It just, it can get complicated. So the question that the committee needs to consider is, do you want the responsibility to be vested with the town administrator? Or do you want it to be vested with the capital improvement planning committee?
And before any of us answer that question, I would like input from you, as a town administrator previously. What's your opinion of this?
So my opinion is that because the operating component of the budget is the responsibility of the town administrator, they are essentially the CFO. It can be very challenging for a CFO to basically pull out a component of budgeting. Capital budgeting is it's a component of budgeting that can impact operations.
Right, right.
And to not be able to have control over both of those things and to have to give control to another body can make that process very challenging. So, if it were me and somebody said, what would your preference be? It needs to be centralized. All budgeting should be the responsibility of one party, both operating and capital.
And so does that mean that the capital improvement committee would propose a budget to the town administrator, and then the town, like, just like the fire department or police chief does, correct? They, you know, all the departments, the DPW says, hey, you know, this is what I want this year, and you know, may not get it, but.
In my brain, I view CIPC as almost like the FinCom of capital expenses. They should be kind of vetting the work, like the town administrator is putting stuff together. They may have projects that they know about or whatever, but they should be working with the town administrator. It should flow from town administrator to CIPC for their rating, support, ranking, pushback, conversation, whatever.
Okay, so excuse me, Leah, so I'd like to ask you this question. So the CIPC is not the group that actually says, hey, in 3 years from now, we need a new fire truck. So we gotta start planning for that, or, you know, we gotta start planning for a new school, or whatever, like, that's not their mission?
So right now that is, but I think that's some of the gray area. I think CIPC, and I don't know the histories, I know there's this group in Rutland that was involved in creating, putting CIPC into state law, that was rooted from a group in Rutland. So there's a huge vested interest in what CIPC currently does. But I think, to Becca's point, if the CFO, whomever is the CFO, doesn't necessarily have complete control over the budget, and that big part, because some capital things are built into a budget, some has to be figured at least into borrowing, or how we're gonna use free cash, or staggering if it's an override versus debt exclusion versus whatever, there's
All
a
the
lot of
different ways you
moving
can fund
pieces to
something.
it, right?
Yep.
Currently, CIPC does have a whole list of projects. They rank them. They bring them to, it's supposed to be to town administrator and select board, and say these are the priority projects that rank based on their scoring and everything. This is how we envision funding working, but there's never any money for it, and there is a 5-year plan, but there's not the funding piece, and it's still just, it's more of a suggestion, rather where I think if it sits with the CFO, then it's more on the radar of everyone.
Okay, so I just got a little concerned when you said that you envisioned the CIPC like the finance committee, where I see the finance committee as like a group that is looking out for the town people after the TA does their budget and the select board, you know, wants to do this. Okay, this is this independent party that says, okay, this is what the folks running the town wanna do, is this in the business of the town? Where I see the CIPC, a visionary leading, you know, not an outside looking in board, but a board with a mission and a purpose to bring things to light to the TA in the select board, that of this list that you say they have and prioritize, and then I'm not sure whose responsibility is to figure out how to fund it. That's always a big question mark here, but ultimately it comes down to the town administrator, the way we've got it set up. It's his budget, and I do agree with most people, it seems like, at least Becker and you, I haven't heard from anybody else, but the CFO, that TA, should have the final say on if we can afford a capital project. That would make sense, one person driving the bus there. I'm all for that overall.
But I think
But to have
sometimes,
board doing the work.
Yeah.
The legwork, yeah.
Like, right, like, hey, this fire truck's gonna cost $100 grand, you know, here's a couple different ways we could take a bond out, borrow this, we got free cash, 30 grand, borrow the rest. I mean, some different ideas to propose to the TA. Is that the process, or is it Becca, I mean,
That's the
Leah?
process that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's what makes sense to me.
What do you think? If
That's
you're the
right,
TA,
that's
Becca,
right.
what would you want, what
So
would you
I-
expect from that CIPC?
So in your mind, the way you just described it, the CIPC would still be the body putting the plan together. Is that
Well,
How-
proposing the plan,
Okay.
right, prioritizing the capital projects. And again, in discussion with the TA and the select board, and then upon them saying, okay, yeah, we agree with these top 3 items, let's see if we can get them done in the next 5 to 10 years, or whatever they may be. Then they do some homework about how to possibly to finance that, or is that strictly on the TA? I don't know. See, I'm looking at it from a business point of view, and that's why I really appreciate
It's
your
taking it off of
your
their
town
plate,
government.
yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, if I'm running my business, I tell, hey, if you want to buy new tools, well, all right, how
Go
much are
give
we
me your
spending?
best rate, yeah.
But nobody spends the money in my business until I say, yeah, we're gonna spend 50 grand on these tools or not, you know? So, great, we need those
I think-
tools, but you know what I mean?
Where that could be challenging is if those 2 parties disagree on the prioritization of the projects.
Yeah.
And funding aside, if the TA says, I think this cruiser is more important than fixing
fire truck.
this, whatever, these windows, and the CIPC is not in agreement, the question is gonna be, which one of those goes to town meeting? Which one is which one ultimately is gonna get proposed? And if it's not crystal clear whose responsibility it is, that's gonna be a difficult thing to
I
work.
still
Well,
feel
wouldn't
like
it be
that's
the TA as
Yeah.
the CFO?
Well, I'm reading
Well,
the
from a
bylaw.
the way
financial
it's
point, that's
written
one
now.
thing,
Yeah.
but from a requirement point, that's a little different thing.
Okay.
That's a little different thing, and let me just give you an example, like in a business, and I'm just gonna if you say, okay, I got some people that wanna spend money on software, and some guy that wants to spend money on tools, and you can only, again, it goes to the operations manager or the VP or the president to say, okay, listen,
This
we're
is
gonna
what
buy
might
the software
happen.
this year, tools, we gotta suck it up, fix them, do whatever we gotta do, but that's all the money we got. This situation is a little different.
Because
It's government, it's
neither
not
of those parties actually gets to
business.
make the decision.
Exactly.
Town meeting has to make the
It's the
decision.
people have to make.
Right,
the
The
right.
question is, what does town meeting get to vote on?
Right,
That's what the question
right.
becomes.
What goes to the meeting?
Well, if I'm reading the bylaw correctly, the capital improvement is supposed to make a report. It sounds like
The list, yeah.
it's written, the bylaw, exactly how you said it. Now, if it's changed from that, I'm reading the bylaw and it sounds like they make a report, it goes to the select board and the town meeting and the finance committee for their consideration. The Board of Selectmen shall submit its approved capital budget at the annual town meeting. But that's after, they're just making recommendations. So if that's not how it's working, Leah, is that not how it's working? Are they,
Dictating instead
yeah,
of,
and dictating instead of just, here's our recommendations?
can I ask another question?
That's what I thought it was.
If it comes down to the TA wants one thing, the CIPC wants another, why does it have to be one or the other that is presented to town? Why can't there be like a ranked choice voting?
Right. If we're the ones deciding, if town's the one deciding, then give
So
the
also-
choices and then the town decides what the best avenue is.
Why can't it be presented to the TA says, this is what I want, this is what the CIPC wants, these are our options, hey town, what do you wanna do?
Yeah.
And then the TA is the one putting it on,
Because then it's multiple iterations of a budget because if this
Okay.
passes, and again.
So if
it's-
both pass, then what do you do,
Or
right? Now
one
you gotta
passes,
fund
but
both these things.
oftentimes it's contingent on a ballot vote also, right? Or, I think ideally we would get to a point that we have some level of capital built into the budget just for we're not there yet, but I think previously.
but it couldn't be submitted as we can only do one.
So the way it was last year, CIPC had a whole list, they have a whole list of projects. I don't know, I haven't seen the whole list of projects, but they have a whole list of projects. They have them scored, and they have their own scoring criteria, and they rank them and everything. So, if a boiler goes in a building, or at the school or something, then that obviously has to take precedence over other things, because that
Gotta keep the heat on.
right, you can't, so a lot of things do get shuffled, unfortunately, because we are a small community that doesn't have a huge
capital budget.
The shuffling becomes, this is what we're doing.
Right, so we haven't, you know, and like I said, in my head, it almost is, I would like to see, and I think they're working a little bit better now, a little bit more collaboration, like TA and CIPC. CIPC has this list, they score, rank, whatever, but then the TA should be able to say, you know what, this other urgent thing came in, it's gonna derail things, and that's how it has been more recently. But select board there's been years that select board had to put something in because it was an emergency, and CIPC got really, really upset that they didn't have a chance to review it and score it and everything, and it's like, it's an emergency, like,
It doesn't say anything about them being able to do that in their bylaw.
Who to do what?
Like if CIPC is,
They can't stick their nose in it.
no, I mean, it doesn't,
so that's kind of where I think
They just make, in other words, what you're saying, Michelle, they just make recommendations.
I'm reading the bylaw and
They don't have the authority to pick and choose. Is that what you're saying?
They present
and
their,
if they don't even have the authority to say this is how it should be funded, they will maybe make recommendations, like, right now we have the money from the sale of the Heights property, and because of how it was sale property and everything, can only be utilized for certain things. So they might make the recommendation like, this is $200,000, consider it funding this source or whatever,
Sure.
but that's ultimately town administrator and select board's decision, especially when it gets to the point of like ballot questions, right?
Yeah.
Like, and obviously it goes to town meeting. If it's free cash or sale of something, it's its own warrant article. It's not, you know, built into the budget.
I'm not shooting faces at you, I forgot my glasses. on
Why
for
would-
No,
reason.
that's okay. Sorry, I'm in the back.
so do most towns have this kind of committee, like a capital improvement committee? I think we back it up a little bit.
Yeah, they do.
For your comparator communities, most of them have something in there about a capital plan. Some of them,
Right.
a smaller number have a capital planning committee. Most of them vest the town administrator or manager, depending on what title they're using, with the sort of final say on this type of proposal. With the capital planning committee, to the extent that they have one, providing a report with, I wouldn't say recommendations, but just a report on the impact of those capital plans over the next 5-year period.
And that's what the bylaw, yeah, that's what the bylaw says.
And I think the bylaw was originally, I'm looking at the footnotes, it was established or adopted in 2008. That was well before we had a town administrator, 7 years before we had a town administrator. So again, I think some of these are just functions of, because it's almost seen as a power committee, because they talk about money and projects and everything, it's really, really hard to give up power. And I hate to say it like that, like,
And also, just not to interrupt, but I just wanted, so if you look at that first sentence of the second paragraph, the capital improvement committee should prepare a list of articles for inclusion in the annual special town meeting. That's, I think, where, concern on our side might be coming from. Not to say that that's not the way that they should or shouldn't do, but it's competing. It's one thing to say, we will look at all the things that are proposed and provide our thoughts. It's another thing to say that they're, like, do the inclusion.
I feel like we're talking in circles a little bit, but we're really we need to decide.
And that was in the bylaws, correct, Anthony, that you just referenced?
No,
In the bylaw. So it says, the section 3 says the board of selectmen shall submit its approved capital budget to the annual town meeting, which makes sense. And then section 4, the first line of section 4 says the capital improvement committee shall prepare a list of articles for inclusion in the annual or special town meeting warrant for that fiscal year, which I'm assuming means based on what they've already suggested and what the town administrator has already approved, correct? Is that how it's supposed to work?
That sounds to me like
Yeah.
the
No, it sounds like to me, like,
That's the
it
problem.
sounds like to me, that's what they were doing before the town administrator was here.
Yeah.
Now the town administrator's here, and it's like, whoa, time out.
well,
We got two people doing the same job,
But this bylaw
kinda, right?
talks about administrator. It does, the bylaw that I'm reading online talks about the town administrator, town accountant, and the treasurer collector shall be ex officio committee staff members. So they're already talked about in this bylaw. So so I don't know when this bylaw was updated, but,
The bylaw was updated with the rest of them, but
Okay,
again, this was
okay.
one of those contentious ones that I don't think it was more reviewed and not really changed a whole lot. I think it was changed a little bit, but to add in the staff piece, but I think, and that's why I think at town meeting, currently if there's capital item, it's not supposed to be placed on the warrant unless CIPC, it's been through the CIPC process and they've made a favor, they've scored it in a manner that it should be. I would almost say more away from that and have them provide their recommendation for capital projects as, planning board makes recommendations on planning
That's how I have it.
articles or whatever.
And
Because
the
again,
TA's, the TA's
sometimes-
budget.
And sometimes you have a pot of money, right, and you might have $100,000, and you can cross off 5 $20,000 projects, or you can cross off, your number one project might be $2 million, that you're never,
Yeah.
you can't fund it, so then you're not gonna do anything because at number one, so then those 5 $20,000s that might be lower priority are just gonna continue to increase in their
Price.
priority and cost, and so that's a little bit where there's been years that we haven't done anything because we didn't have the money to do the top ranked things, and there's been hesitation to
Spend anything.
do
Lee, do we
anything.
have a capital budget, like with any money in it?
No, I mean, we have a
Yeah.
capital stabilization fund.
Yeah.
That we put, that's one of the ones that we put 5% of our free cash in, annually, but it's not like, we don't have much in our,
That's covering the boiler.
yeah, exactly, I mean, and.
What's 5% of that, like, free cash, like, a year in dollars?
Well, so like this year, we
On
had
average.
I think we had 2.2 million in free cash this year, this year.
Nice.
Most years, we have, in the $500,000 to $1 million in free cash.
Okay, yeah,
So, it varies greatly.
sure.
And
Sounds like
we're not a community that automatically puts in like
$100,000 a year.
$500,000
Yeah.
to,
just banking that money.
right, or into our yearly operating budget. We don't have a whole lot cooked into our yearly operating budget for capital expenses either. There's some communities that will say, we're gonna put, and I'm gonna throw like
Absolutely.
$500,000
Exactly.
as a line item.
As a line item, it goes into your capital budget every year.
And that's the
Sure,
minimum
most
that you're
institutions,
spending.
businesses,
Now,
Right.
you know.
now is that the decision of the town administrator to is it a special line that or is that just a decision that we have enough money in our budget that we can allocate that much to the capital
That's
line?
one of those line items that has been cut because we never have,
Right.
Enough.
overrides aren't, and so it's not one
Yeah.
that when we.
Anybody running the financial, like the CFO,
Right.
is always trying to improve their capital budget,
Sure.
right? Because when that $1 million boiler system goes into school,
Yeah.
you gotta replace
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And you don't have, you can't just, we can do it with the kids or whatever.
So
Right.
really, the ultimate question here is whose budget is it? It's the TA's budget.
well, I have an even more ultimate question.
Yeah.
Why do we have a CIPC if we have a finance committee?
Well, it's the
We
town's.
Well, the finance committee's not
Right.
the
It's
one
people's budget.
looking
We're
ahead to spend
trusting
money
the
for 5
TA
years, what we need.
to
So
represent.
the capital CIPC
Right,
is like, okay, the school needs a renovation, the town hall needs a renovation, we need a new fire station.
but why isn't that a function of the finance committee?
Because I think finance is more the operating budget. They should, I think they should be looking at the current year and 5, maybe even 10-year operating budget outlook, but capital is
Okay.
totally separate.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Okay,
not, it's funded separately. You would be stupid. I think it's not
no, I'm just
I
throwing,
think
I'm
it's-
just
I
throwing
think
it out
it's-
there,
yeah, no, I think
just
it's not
wondering why.
municipally, financially, it's smart to put a whole bunch of capital projects under your levy, because then you,
I think you
then
lose,
exclude it.
you also lose like the integrity of the board, because, they're not here to say what to spend it on. They're just here to look at everything that the town is proposing to spend, and then say, okay, listen,
Here's how we can do it.
all right, well, this is good for the town, this is bad for the town, we can't afford, like, I remember going to meetings where we can't afford all this.
Right.
We're not against it as individuals and citizens of the town,
Right.
but we cannot stand in front of the citizens of this town and say, vote on this, because if you do, we gotta fire 3 policemen.
Right, Right.
There's just not enough money here, you're gonna go
You've been on
bankrupt.
the CIPC, have you?
I have not been on the
I
CIPC.
thought you were on the CIPC.
No.
Okay.
But also oftentimes
RDIC.
capital projects are funded through debt exclusions, which is still a ballot question, but it's, once the project is finished and the debt's paid off, that falls off of the tax rolls, so it's not like a forever, so it's easier to, and I don't wanna say easier, but people are more likely to vote in favor of a debt exclusion because they feel like they're getting something in return for it.
Sure.
It's like a credit card essentially,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
the ladder truck was a debt exclusion, so we are getting a new ladder truck in a couple years, and that was
Funded,
funded.
basically.
So, but the question now is, who's the shot caller here?
Right.
So,
It's the TA.
it's the TA.
Online, anybody, any opinions? Tolene, who else online? Well, Lee, you're here now.
Yeah, I think it was, I didn't look because I was,
Just Tolene.
I think it was just Helene.
I've lost track of why we asked that in the first place. What were we getting at that opened that discussion?
It was just something that they highlighted, Anthony and Becca highlighted in reviewing the draft.
So it's like two different sections. It's one section under the TA.
Yeah.
Which is
Oh,
And it's also coming up
and
under the
then it's
finance.
coming
And then
under.
it's coming
So
up
he-
again.
So
Okay.
we're referencing this back under the TA that they highlighted, like Anthony said, but
So it's coming
kind
up.
of, we're coming up here now.
Okay, we're not there yet.
And then, his second comment was proposing a capital budget to the select board and finance committee. His question was, who should be responsible for this, CIPC or TA, which is the question ultimately on the table here. And I think I agree with what everybody here said, the TA should have the final say in what's in this budget from a capital expense point. I think it's also difficult, just a comment, but it's just kind of weird that you have a CIPC committee and hardly any money in this thing for them to work with. And I know that's just a function of the town, the financial situation of the town, but I feel bad for those people in that committee because some years you're making $25,000 there. I mean, what can you do with 25 grand today? Good lord.
Well, like
You
I'm
can't even do a
looking at-
bathroom over in the library.
But they also very much pride themselves on not being a financial holder.
Yeah.
Like the committee themselves.
Sure.
Because I had argued for, when we were doing the bylaws, that to me, the function of CIPC was the equivalent of the function of FinCom just for capital instead of operating.
Okay.
And that was and they very much argued no, that they were totally separate and they shouldn't have, that I was totally wrong and everything, that's not how they wanted it to be, and they're not responsible for any money. FinCom's not technically responsible for any money either, it's the CFO, right? I mean, so I think.
You're just proving the point, like, it's the TA's budget.
Exactly, so I think that's some of the challenge of, we saw how difficult it was with FinCom for all of the changes, right? And I think there's been so many years of not having a town administrator or an truly empowered town administrator. And so now that we're delineating that, as I think any town administrator would want, at this point, it's really hard to try to be in charge of all these things when you can't actually be in charge of them all.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's value to having recommendations or.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to, make a committee feel like they're useless if,
Right.
Everything we work on all year long is just
That's
going to get
not
thrown in
town
the
hall.
trash.
Is that what we're getting at?
You
Like,
know,
to get rid of that? No.
You don't think, I think that just comes down to the character of the town administrator and, their ability to deal with all the committees, right? And all the department heads that they have to deal with. I mean, if they're just taking people's budgets, whether you're a DPW guy or a CIPC, and just throw it in the trash, saying, I want to do something different, and you're just a person on a road, I mean, you're gonna end up there, it's a lonely spot, but, all right, so what we're hearing here, just to move along here, is that it's the town administrator's responsibility ultimately for this budget. And then I guess, just for Anthony and Becca's point, do we want any language in this town administrator section that states how the CIPC works, or maybe we should go to the CIP section or the finance section? Are we gonna define the CIPC's role in this charter?
I think you should, if you keep it, you already have it, so if you're keeping it, so, in terms of mapping things over to the charter without doing too much change, then you probably would. It sounds like what I heard is that you want the capital planning to be in the realm of the town administrator. So, I can pull some other ones up. I think you wanted then, and Becca, feel free to chime in here, but I think the direction you want to go with the CIPC in terms of their responsibility is probably in the annual review of proposed and ongoing capital programs, and then they can submit a report that can be submitted to the town meeting, so that the town meeting has more information on capital plans. That's kind of what I've seen in other places, and I can put some names around. But Becca, chime in if I'm off base if you recommend something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I think there's benefit to having a CIPC in an advisory capacity, right? They're providing recommendations, but ultimately it is the town administrator's budget, but they should take and hear advice and recommendations from the CIPC, whose responsibility it is to your point, be sort of that check and balance to some extent.
Yeah.
And we can draft up some language that is more along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a wise town administrator who has its committee who's doing all this work and then says,
Blows them off.
yeah, I want that, that seems silly.
And just from a, I do like, Anthony and Becca, the way this wording is in section 2 of the town administrator, where it says, under section 1, constructing the town's capital budget with input from department heads, committee chairs, regional bodies, and the capital improvement planning committee.
Yeah.
Because I think that kind of says, hey, to Leah's point, when you have an emergency boiler problem, the CIP is not going to see that coming, right? The DPW guy calls you up and says, we're flooding, the elementary school in Glenwood.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need the CIP for this. We just got to fix the damn thing and get it done. And so that's his job to do that, or her job, the TA's job to do with the DPW and the corrective people. But that would be something so it's not just the CIPC is where I'm going.
Yeah.
You have other things that are going to happen under the capital budget,
Yeah.
and you would use that money for it.
And I think the town administrator also is in the day-to-day, so
Yeah.
I know there's been
Right.
some years that department heads are like, there's no money, so some department heads are like, I'm not even gonna, I have
Waste my
these
time,
capital things, but I know there's no money, so why bother? So they don't even make the list, where other department heads are just more squeaky, right, and that's fine.
Sure.
But the TA has the broader, so there's some things that have continued to not even be on anybody's radar because they're not going to CIPC, where the town administrator has at minimum monthly department head meetings and is in town seeing all everything, whether it's building related or.
The CIPC, that's appointed by the select board?
Yeah.
Okay. So if they're not cutting it,
Right.
I mean, the town administrator has got to say something to the select board. The select board will recognize it, saying, "Hey, geez, it's been like a year and a half. We haven't gotten anything from the CIPC. Like, I know we don't have any money, but can you give us something to get ready for if we do hit a $2 million windfall this year or something?
Yeah, they
Like,
have
let's
a
get something
very-
ready here."
They have a really very detailed plan.
And I'm sure they do. I'm just saying,
That's amazing.
Michelle, in general, if they weren't providing something,
But we
and
only
the
have
TA's
three-
like,
there's only
okay,
3 members on it,
the
too.
squeaky wheel gets
Yeah.
the oil.
Right.
Well, then,
They haven't filled.
new fire trucks it is and new
Yeah.
snow plows.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it should be the TA that says this is,
Yeah.
yeah.
So does that give you some good direction, Anthony and Becca, that, we want the TA to have the overall say of this, and, we like that they're reviewing input from all things from a capital budget point of view, not just the CIPC. Because I think that's important to.
Was a sports arena in there?
Oh, what?
Was a sports arena in there? Am I sounding right?
Let's see.
All right.
Let me just clarify, you don't, because I guess what I heard is, you don't make any changes to the town administrator section. We are just gonna update the CIPC section to make their roles and responsibilities advisory to the TA and to the town meeting. That's kind of the gist of what I thought I heard.
At least the intent of what you have written in the town administrator, I don't see that as a problem. I think that if you think it needs to tweak it to give the TA a little more, definitive, direct, oversight, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But yes, we want the TA to have oversight of the capital budget. And I just like the way you put other things in there, not just based on the CIP's input, but other boards and regional things and whatever's going on. If there's a regional planning committee that wants to put something through the town, that, you gotta know about that, right?
Yeah.
CIPC wouldn't know about that. The town administrator would know about that first. So a lot of different things can come into this town that would require capital funding that would not be the CIPC's first thing. So that's all I'm saying. And I don't know, you've done a great job with wording this up, so I'll leave it to you, Anthony.
$200,000 to replace a boiler in Macon.
Excuse me. So I got some things. This might be a holdover. Section 7-1, fiscal year beginning the first day of July. I'm pretty sure the committee talked about that and agreed to it. And then Becky put together some good information or some good language around the finance committee being the first to make an amendment at the town meeting.
Yep, the right of first amendment, yep. That we want to, right, well, the committee's in agreement with, July first day of the fiscal year of the town. We're all good with that, right?
Yeah.
And we're in agreement with the finance committee has right of first amendment
Yes.
at the town meeting. We discussed that, and I believe
Oh, yeah.
that was all agreed upon, yes. Yep,
And then we talked about the CIPC. So the next section, so then we would be leaving the financial procedure section. I don't know if there's anything anyone else wanted to point out.
I don't think so. And did our discussion cover everything on the 7.3, the capital planning committee that you have highlighted and questioned?
Yeah, based on our conversation, that was.
You have enough direction with that, okay, good, all right. Okay,
And then I'll turn over to Becca. The next section is administrative procedure, and you did a good job putting together this information here.
all right, thank you, Anthony.
So we had talked about this at the last meeting fairly extensively, but this is essentially the article that designates under whose authority departments can be reorganized. So creating new departments, abolishing departments, merging departments. Most charters have this section in it, so it's clear who has the authority to do it. In the last meeting, we had conversation, and it seemed to me like the committee was leaning toward granting that authority to the select board, with the caveat that in the event that additional funding was required, that they would obviously need to go to town meeting to acquire that funding to make that change.
So for a new department, personnel, et cetera, right?
Right. So that's what's in Article 8. I did add, we didn't talk about 8-3, but I did add it because it is in charters that don't vest the authority with town meeting, meaning it's a town manager or it's a select board who has the authority to reorganize. Oftentimes you see language around public hearing to sort of offer that opportunity for the public to come in and speak and hear about it. It provides for a little bit more accountability, and so it doesn't just seem like select board is changing things without, so that's an option. We didn't talk about it, but I did include it just because it's fairly common in charters.
Can I ask a question about
Yeah.
8-2?
Yeah.
Is there any checks and balances available there? Do you think it's a little, I don't know, a lot for one? I mean, I know they're the executive.
I think,
Well, you're on select board. What do you think?
because I was thinking like board or town administrator or whatever, I like having the hearing in there because that provides opportunity for public input. It forces the board, or if, in this way, it forces the board to communicate to the public.
I see.
That is happening.
Okay. So I see what you're saying now. The public hearing is kind of the check and balance against
Yeah.
the select board.
And then we're a 5-member board, right? So I think that there's 5 of us that would have to, it would be majority, it's not super majority, but it would be majority, so it's still,
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
When I read it, I thought, well, that's a lot.
I was kind of thinking the opposite. I was almost thinking like, is this a TA's responsibility?
And I think, I don't disagree that it, because as in a lot of times,
No,
as
excuse me, but
staff,
we're not spending more money because that goes to the town vote.
right,
So you're not,
But abolishing and changing and
realizing
Organizing.
Yeah.
efficiencies or whatever.
like, hey, why do we have these two departments? Let's put them into one,
I think
save some money. Like, okay?
I think my argument would be, yes, I would be hopeful that the TA would bring it to the select board to get support for it, and then force the conversation as, especially in a town of Rutland's size and history. I think larger communities might be able to handle it without, but I can envision, if we suddenly said, I'm just gonna throw out there, like, we're gonna do accountant, treasurer, collector, we could never do this legally, but we're gonna do accountant, treasurer, collector, and assessor as one or something, then I could, in other communities, it might not be an issue, but in Rutland, I think a lot of change is hard, and so providing that opportunity, so I would still hope that the TA would feel empowered to say, hey, this is an efficiency that we can realize by reorging, is the board present to the
Agreed.
board,
Right.
have the public hearing, and
Okay.
then,
Shouldn't that be the way the TA works anyway? Because the TA does work ultimately for the select board who work for the people of the town. So wouldn't like the TA said, hey, why do we have a carpet division and a chair division? Shouldn't we have one furniture division? They would go to the select board, and the select board ultimately is responsible for that.
Yeah.
And then the town is, so.
But not all organizations are run that way,
No,
okay? And again, I'm coming from a private sector,
right,
where you hire me to be the president or CEO of this company,
right,
I'm making all the decisions. And, yeah, you might be the board of trustees up there, okay, select board, right, equal? But you're hiring me, and if I run this company into the ground, it's your job to fire me. But your job to let me make these decisions as your president of the company, CFO, the CEO of the company. So it's kind of, honestly, Michelle, all I'm saying is it's a difference of opinion, it's people, some people like to have the control and don't wanna give it up to, like, for instance, let's take like a national football team or a sports organization. Some owners bring in their general manager and they're hands off. And if that guy runs the team into the ground, he's fired, and he goes, hires another guy. But again, some owners that gotta meddle in every decision,
and I
and
think,
again, that frustrates some of the people that you hired to do a job.
true.
I think, if I may, I think a couple things, I think Rutland has had notorious turnover with town administrators, so I think some of the concern is one town administrator comes in, totally reorganizes some stuff, and then leaves, and then another town administrator comes in and
Let's put it back the way it was,
reorganizes.
Yeah, that too.
On the flip side, I think by
There's a
saying
lot
that
of
the
hands
select
to
board
juggle
could do it, I think the bylaws, I think select board could authorize the TA to do that and just say, you can do it, but we still want the hearing. You know what I mean, like.
Yeah, I love the hearing idea that Becca put in there, that 8-3. I think that's a great thing. In today's world, you just can't be doing things without
Explain yourself.
it absolutely signed, right? I mean, that's not a big deal to have a quick time to explain what you're doing here. If you're just reorganizing something.
People do better with change if you have a rationale, so.
Yeah.
So I think right now, and like I said, I think in a lot of things, it's select board, but because the town administrator is essentially the agent of the select board, if the
Yeah.
select board is in agreement with, hey, this is within your power, whether it's through bylaw or when the charter comes up for renewal or consideration, it can be.
I'm kinda stuck in the middle of this, I'm not gonna.
I'm with you.
Cause I'm just, from my business point of view, and I'm hiring a TA, like, it's your job, you're running the show.
Right.
Good, better, and different, but but our job to oversee and make sure what we think is a good job, right? As a select board, as a board of trustees, right, you're hiring that CEO, like, okay, here's the keys to the city, kid, run it. But I'm not this is a government thing, that's why I love input from Becca, because I'm not, this is not a business, it's town government.
This is splitting hairs a little bit, but the TA is not the chief executive, right? The select board is the chief executive body, so
And the
it's
people
a
of
little
the board
bit
of
different.
trustees?
Ultimately,
Ultimately?
town meeting is the legislative body,
Yeah.
right? And in this form of government, where you have select board, town meeting, the select board is the chief executive. Now, if you had, council manager or council mayor, that's different. Then the council is your legislative body and your mayor is your executive, or your manager is your executive. We don't,
Okay.
Rutland doesn't have that
We're
form of
not there,
government,
yeah.
so the select board is the elected executive body.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
And it's a question of, do you want the executive body to make that decision? Do you want the legislative body to make that decision? Or do you want the administrative arm, which is the TA, the chief administrative officer? You don't see that as much. Some towns that have a really strong town manager, maybe, But usually in the select board town meeting form of government, the power is vested with the select board, and in some rare cases, with town meeting.
And I think from an efficiency thing, it would be much more efficient to do it with the select board, even requiring the public hearings, because otherwise we have 2 town meetings that it could happen, unless there's a special town meeting for it. And I'm thinking back years ago, Chris, you might remember a little bit with all the recreation stuff. Remember there used to be a recreation director, and there used to be an appointed recreation committee, and then there was no recreation director, and it was only the committee, and then there was no, and now there's no committee, and there's only the director, and so that's, and I believe all of those decisions were select board driven. And so I think keeping it with, and my hope would be the administrator
Would suggest
come
that,
to the
right?
board and say, hey, these
I
are
mean, like you say,
efficiencies.
day-to-day operational, like they're the person gonna say, hey,
Right,
we don't need these 2 things, let's combine
Well,
this.
just with the history of not having a TA, that's, the
right.
select board's always gonna be there.
Right. And I do like calling out that it has to be a public hearing, because I do think sometimes select board we're public meetings and we're posted and people should just know, where for some of this, again, to have buy-in and support on the staff side, because a lot of our staff are residents also, right? And so,
True.
to have buy-in from, and they're very well connected to our residents, so any upset staff turns into upset residents. And so I think to have that buy-in to say, this is why we're doing it, this is the rationale, to Sandra's point, people wanna know and build that confidence, I think.
Yep.
And otherwise, we're waiting till May or November to do stuff unless we call a special, where sometimes it might make sense, like maybe we have department heads leaving and it's really hard to hire given whatever, and so we're gonna combine a couple departments, we can hire maybe a stronger department head that can cover these, and it makes sense to do that, and then you might have more layers of administrative support or whatever.
But even something like that has to go to town meeting anyway. If it has to do with any kind of money.
Yeah.
If
Not
it
if the money's
says,
already allocated, if the the salary money is already allocated or something.
if it
As long as
requires,
it's for that purpose.
Right,
yeah,
right,
okay,
yeah.
restructuring, consolidation of a department that requires an appropriation of funds. Yeah,
I'm fine either way. I like the TA because it gets done quickly. It's one person, there's not, even the select board, it's gotta be a meeting,
Right.
one or two nights of meetings to discuss it, should we do it? Bureaucratic, slow, drawn out process, right? Then the town hearing, which I think is essential, but that draws the process out longer. Again, just give the boss the rifle, let him go. But either way, it's fine with me. I'll go either way with the committee, whatever they feel. What do you, any other opinions? Should it just be the way Becca put this together with the select board? I'm fine with that.
I like it,
I like the select board as well.
I agree.
just because the TA's
Yeah,
hit or miss.
word's constant.
Hardly here anyways. Sorry.
And like I said, I think that hopefully the TA has a relationship with the board, that the TA,
It should work that way. I totally agree that they should at least be promoting this, right? Starting this, initiating this to the board to carry the torch and get it executed, but, Okay,
So I'm okay with it as well, but just to clarify, these are sections 8.1 through 8.4?
correct.
Yes.
Or at least 8.3,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But 8.4 also, we talked, that's the allocating of the funds, right? So that's gotta go to town meeting.
and that's standard, I mean, anything with
Yeah,
funding.
so so 8.3, 8.4, Richard, yep. Okay, so we're all good with those? All right, beautiful.
Thank you, Becca, for putting that in.
Yeah, excellent work, that's good, I like that town meeting that's key. Today's transparency world, you gotta have it,
Public hearing, yeah.
the public hearing. Okay, 9.1,
So we're actually really close to the end here. So 9.1 is usually a very short section. Town elections generally governed by state law. You've got some general flexibility around when the elections are happening and some other things which I've highlighted with some notes on here. So under your current bylaw, you've been having, it sounds like you have your town meeting in the second Monday in May. So we've kept that for 9.1. And then another interesting one is around how candidates' names are placed on the ballot. So I just opted in some language here, which is basically it's a random draw for the candidate order on the ballot, but you can also do it alphabetically. You can do it but that's more of a policy decision for the committee. The other policy decision would be around whether or not to allow a preliminary town election. So that is, if you had got, generally, if you got a position that's available, and you've got 2+1 candidates, then your preliminary election whittles the field down to just 2 candidates for the general election. Most communities of your size do not have, or specifically sort of don't have preliminary town elections. And then the remainder of this section, 9-3 and 9-4, are pretty boilerplate that you see in every charter, just around the applicability of state law, and that these local elections are nonpartisan. That's to say, candidates do not declare a specific party when they run for these types of positions.
I just pulled up a ballot from May 2024, and for the select board candidates, it's not in alphabetical order.
I think is it incumbents and then random, or is it just totally random?
Well, in this case,
Oh, there was
Yeah.
no incumbents, cause Tom didn't run
so,
again.
yeah, I don't think it's by incumbents.
I can't remember, to be honest, I
Yeah.
don't.
And I'm
But-
sorry, I actually meant to say you probably want to just double check with the clerk about how they're doing it now. That you may just want to substitute that in for what I've got now.
Right.
Yeah,
I thought it said somewhere on the town election page, I thought I remember reading that.
I don't think-
somewhere.
I don't think Rutland is at the size or has the interest in contested
If
elections
you get one or two.
to do a preliminary, election, because I think the contested seats are, if they're contested, it's usually, like, I think the select board races that I've been in have been some of the most contested, and it's 2 seats, and I think the one year there were 7 candidates for 2 seats, and it was top 2 vote getters. So
Yeah.
some of them didn't campaign at all, so like,
Yeah.
but, so I don't think that having a preliminary election, I don't think we have a high enough voter turnout to justify it. And we don't have,
That's a good point, too.
I think also Rutland historically doesn't invest, like, candidates don't invest a ton, we don't have like these big huge infusions of cash to run campaigns and everything, like, I buy my yard signs myself, and like,
No TV time, Leah?
yeah,
Huh?
yeah, I'm not like trying, you know,
Yeah.
right, I'm not like trying to pay off cable to like give me time on air or whatever, but no,
Prime time.
right,
There you
so I think we're not there, and so maybe if we grew to a size, a much larger
Yeah.
size, but I don't,
We can discuss the changes to that 5 years from now,
Right.
or 10 or 20 years.
with the next iteration of the charter.
And I think we can ask Anita and Ben how the names are.
How the names are drafted
Yeah.
now, yeah. Okay, is that something you
Michelle,
can do?
I can ask Ben right now, I can ask both. of
Okay,
them
yeah, you wanna
now.
try right now, that'd be
Yeah.
great, sure. Yeah, so does anybody really think we need a preliminary election? It's just kinda,
Yeah.
doesn't seem like there's been many situations that we've ever even needed it, let alone require it, so. Okay, so that would not be required. And then we'll just see how they're doing. I'm fine with 9-3 and 9-4, does anybody have any, those are just kinda generic legal things. I believe it is the second Monday in May of each year, is that correct?
For the election.
For the town election, right?
I think we have something earlier in the charter, don't we, that says that as well?
That's a town meeting, I think.
Yeah, the town meeting
Oh,
is the
town,
Saturday,
that's right.
is
Sorry.
the first, is the Saturday before that election. It's the Saturday before the second Monday of the, so that it's always a couple days prior to the election. Which we were good with, we discussed that.
Yep.
I think that's the reason why it's the
Yeah.
second Monday, so that there'd always be a Saturday before it, right? You know, so. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so actually, now before I go to 10, this is actually sort of, I was reminded of this as we were preparing today, is we did discuss earlier on a section on what we usually call resident participation in an open town meeting. So in cities or places with a council, that usually is a place where you would give the population the ability to, by ballot, like overturn a vote of the town meeting, I'm sorry, of the town council or things of that nature. For a community like yours with a open town meeting, that's a section where you would put something like recall So, I guess what I'll do here is I'll just ask a question. Do you even want me to put something like that language together, for Rutland?
So we have, I think it was before you were on the Zoom, Anthony, in our last May's, town meeting, it passed a special act to recall elected officials. So that, I don't know that it's been approved by the AG yet, but it's going through the process. So that will exist by then, so I think it would go in the charter. I'm not sure how special acts,
So that special act is for recalling, Leah, correct?
for recalling
For
elected.
election recall,
Oh, yeah, elected officials,
elected
yeah.
officials, yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
and so, and then, I think we had talked about kind of doing, and I don't wanna speak for the whole committee, but I think we had kind of talked about not putting in the recall of appointeds, keeping that in the bylaw, because otherwise it gets too much in the weeds.
We did talk about, I remember that.
That I think was just earlier tonight that we talked about that also. And so I'm not sure what else is normally there.
And refresh my memory, but what's the purpose of recalling an elected official? Like, what are the grounds to do something like that?
So it's,
Go on, sorry.
no, go ahead. The language that passed is pretty much, there's examples for what, but it's essentially a whole lot of signatures to get it on. It can be for anything, really. Town council kind of suggested not calling out,
Certain aspects?
Right, so I think if you recall, I think a few years ago, the mayor of Fall River was recalled and then actually re-elected he was recalled and re-elected in the same election. We have a different process in Rutland, but, a lot of times it's like,
Guy's good,
financial, like,
good at bad, but he's good, he's really good at whatever he is.
They had a bad provision for recall, so you said a bad provision, that the person you're recalling can also be elected on the same, but, sorry, go on.
right. And I think the language that passed at town meeting for Rutland specifically does not allow for that.
What happened there?
But, there's some very.
So you get signatures, a
Right.
certain amount, let's say, right?
Right,
And then
and
a process starts of recalling
Yeah,
somebody.
and that was all through the language that passed for the special act is all lined out for that.
And how does this little inquisition go? Like, who do you go in front of?
No, so it goes to the ballot,
It's a vote, it's a town vote?
yeah,
Oh, so you're just having a recall of a vote?
right.
Okay.
You basically.
And is that at the next town election, or the next town meeting, I should say, where we're gonna have two now, you could do it at the next one?
You can probably call it special.
Yeah,
Or even call it special? Okay.
I forget,
I guess I would pause here. If you guys have passed it or are trying to, because I looked and I didn't see a special act.
Well, it hasn't been approved by the state yet, is what Leah said before too.
It's been
So-
submitted.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that actually go in the charter and,
Yeah.
If you maybe could circulate it to us, into the committee, and I can
I'll
put
see
the
if I
Can
can find it.
Leah, could you do that?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it.
Alright, so we'll get that to you and Becca, and let's review it too. Let's just make sure it's, I don't want, but you can certainly propose language that we can discuss at the next meeting and, move forward with it. But I stands to reason, I agree with you, Anthony, if what they wrote makes sense and is good legally, that we should, codify that into this charter as well.
Isn't it kind of
I
said
mean, it
and
sounds
done?
like they've
when
already
it's-
done the work, 'cause the only thing I would really check for is that you don't get in the situation that you identified in Fall River, that
Yeah.
if you're recalling somebody,
It's-
they can't also.
Sounds like what, Leah's suggesting, that was specifically prevented in the wording, so hopefully that's been,
Isn't it, Leah, isn't it said and done? We're just waiting for it to be approved by the state?
Yeah, so it passed the town meeting in May, and I am just looking,
Anthony, what's the time frame for bylaws to be approved by the state? Like, we got it approved in May. How long is
This
it?
would probably be a special act, so I'm assuming so it wouldn't,
so it's
have
bill,
gone to the AG, but it would've gone to the legislature.
so it's,
Okay.
I think it's with the Senate right now, it's bill S 2789,
It's 27.
so,
Just looking up the meeting packet.
cause Kim and Peter submitted it, right, for us. So sorry, it's, because it's a special act, it's legislature and not AG.
An act for-
Excuse me, I'm just gonna step outside for a minute.
Do you you want me to send around, I downloaded the bill, do you want me to send it around?
I've got, I actually, I filled it up. I printed it out.
Good tomorrow?
Yeah, ready to go, we got a 10 by 2010.
Yeah. I mean, I'm,
Galoshes.
so, I mean, I don't, I wouldn't wanna, just share this with,
Oh, look at that.
Thank you.
Well, you know what, Anthony, we're not on the big screen.
Oh, yeah, so we'll take a look at it. We'll just kind of plug it in and we can maybe talk about it I'm assuming your next meeting's probably not until January.
Yeah.
We can talk about it in depth.
And this had been reviewed a lot by KP, our town council, and we had, select board had input from the other electeds, in town, and then we had, we talked about it at a number of our meetings, and it was well advertised that we were talking about it, and it was presented at the annual town meeting, not a fall special or anything, so,
Yeah, I would recommend just taking the language and plugging it right in. Sure.
I agree with that.
and I'll try to go back through, I'm not sure if there's any other special acts that would need to be put in, or home rule petitions that need to be put in the charter. The other one that I know of is the one that delineates the Rutland Heights property, but that's not charter, that's
Bylaw.
land and bylaw and charges and stuff, so, I don't think that there's anything else, but I will make a note to confirm.
Well, that's good, because actually that was one of the last things, so one of the last things is the transition provision, and what we do is we do some research around, and we'll give it back to you around, here's what we found for special acts that would, now, this one would not have come up, because we wouldn't have been in the past law, so I'm glad that we are seeing it now and we can plug it right in. But basically, the things that the charter covers, it would supersede any special acts, so we actually do that research, we'll present it to you guys to confirm
Okay.
with council and everything.
The other one that I know of that was fairly recent was there, even though Rutland had been operating as a 5-member select board for a number of years, it hadn't actually been through and can't remember if it was through the legislature or what to change that, and I'm not sure if that also calls the select board specifically as the Board of Public Works, or if that was just acceptance of MGL / town meeting vote or something. That's the only other question that I have right now off the top of my head. But I know the 5-member board is legit now, for sure.
Alright, so I
Good.
made a note. So.
Good to know.
This, now this is actually the last sort of real substantive piece of the charter is, section, is it 11? Section 10, general provisions. So, a lot of boilerplate here. People can put various things. I put in just the things that we see most frequently and the things that are similar to your, comparator charters, which is around severability, some things around not definitions per se, but like if you like interpretations of words, particularly around numbers and gender, certain provisions prevailing, and then where some meeting conversations can be had, which are around the periodic charter review, which is not required, but we recommend that periodically the communities review their charters. It usually starts, the first review is 5 years after adoption, and then every 10 years thereafter. It's usually set by setting a specific number. So now the numbers I just plugged some numbers in there. It would usually be you estimate when you think your charter will be adopted, and so then you'll say, if the charter's adopted next year, if it goes to the legislature, let's say next year, and then we're adopted that year, then 5 + 6 would be 11. So then every 10 years would be so it's kind of just
Right.
that
Yeah.
general math. And then the other place where there could be some interest is around who appoints the charter committee, the charter review committee. So I have it in there as the select board. I've seen communities sort of spread it around, like maybe there'll be one appointment by the moderator or some other group, the finance committee, so on and so forth. This is the most straightforward, most common one that the select board appoints these members. And then I put a question mark around periodic charter review. You've got a provision for that in your bylaw. The only reason I didn't add it in, and why I'm just gonna
Oh, periodic bylaw review?
Yeah, I'm sorry, bylaw review, right?
Periodic bylaw review, is because I see the provision is, every time I see charter review, I see bylaw review. But I often find that communities are not doing the periodic bylaw review. So, you know, I think it's fine in your bylaws, it's fine if you wanna put in the charter,
Is there something already in the bylaw that says
Yeah.
they have to?
there is.
Yeah, we have a bylaw, but what is that right now?
I was gonna say there's a committee.
Like,
The bylaw committee is new and some of the emphasis in updating the bylaws themselves was to make sure that we were, that, because the bylaw committee hadn't actually been created until 2019, I believe.
okay,
And that was when the ad hoc bylaw committee that was doing the revisions was working.
Yep.
So this was to codify that and say, we want to, like, select board, we as town wanna make sure that you're holding this committee responsible for reviewing the bylaws, essentially, that they need to be reviewed, and it is,
In my opinion, can
at
that,
least applicable by law at least once every 6 years. The committee shall conduct a complete review of the town's general bylaws to ensure they're consistent with changes to applicable law at least once every 6 years.
Okay.
They're supposed to meet at least quarterly.
every year, quarterly, you're saying?
Yeah,
That's for our bylaw committee?
Yeah.
That's what you mean?
yeah.
so couldn't we do here what we've done in other places and just say,
As per.
as per, look at the bylaws, this is what you should be following?
If you're not gonna, you actually don't even, cause this is not putting in the charter doesn't mean it goes away, it would just mean that your bylaw would be standing without a interference from the charter.
So we can just scratch that section.
I'd recommend you just don't even have it, if that's the.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is everybody fine with that?
Yeah.
If the bylaws got it, and the town can change the bylaws as it feels it needs to change the
Right.
bylaws of the bylaws.
Right, cause I
You
think then otherwise we get into slippery slope with why are we calling out some bylaws versus
Yeah.
others versus
Yeah.
where this just,
Keeps it general,
Right.
or everything's getting looked at least once every 6 years. Yeah, okay. Keep it up, yep.
and is in your experience, Becca and Anthony, is 6 years, I don't remember the rationale for it being 6 years. Is that usually a good time frame for bylaw review, or,
Yeah, for comprehensive review, I wouldn't do it more than 6 years.
yeah,
Because there are also, bylaw committees will review any change to any bylaw in any given year.
right,
So it's
exactly,
not like they don't look at it for 6 years.
right, that's what,
They're always looking at it. A comprehensive review of the bylaws is not a light lift.
right,
So I wouldn't do it any more than every 6 years.
yeah.
Okay.
And that was trying to empower the bylaw committee and residents and boards and committees and staff to call, to have an avenue to go and say, hey, this bylaw.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, because
Or-
there's a lot of times, like, the zoning board and the planning board will see conflicting things within the bylaws, so, hey, we should mention that to who? Well, to them.
Right.
And let them, let them take the due process and clean it up this year, the next year, whatever.
Right.
Because things do get a little,
Yeah.
the more you do, the more, I think conflictions, Massachusetts is good for that.
Yeah.
A lot of laws, Okay, so you're good there, we're good there?
Mhm.
All right, next,
So actually, that's it. The next thing we would do is, well, right now, the next thing I'll do, I'm gonna add the resident participation section, that would be this recall language. But the next thing we would do is actually, you're actually done, and we would actually go through and just make sure that we list, special acts that this charter would then supersede, and we list those in the transition section. We confirm that with you, and you probably wanna confirm that with council. But this is at the end, this is when you send your charter to council.
Okay.
But that's basically, in terms of the meaty sections, that's it. Oh, I'm sorry, let me say one other thing. The general provisions section, I don't know if you wanna do this, but I do see some communities putting in some things around multi-member boards, so those are your other boards and committees. Particularly this section is beginning to be populated with items like, if members are not attending a certain number of meetings and they are automatically off that multi-member board or things like that. It's not common, but it's something I'm seeing more and more, so I'm not necessarily recommending it, but that
Are there bylaws
is
for
just
that?
something that I'm seeing more and more.
That's where we have it in our bylaw, that was the new one of the new bylaws that passed is the removal from appointed boards and committees. And one of the big things there was failure to attend X number of consecutive meetings. There's other rationale also, but that was a big driver of it. I don't know, I think we talked about not putting that in the charter just because
The bylaw's already there.
the bylaw's there and things may change, but I don't know. I'm interested to hear how the rest of it, I lean towards keeping it in the bylaw and not,
How's that any different than the,
Anything else?
what we did, the section 10 dash period of bylaw review? It's the same thing.
right. And I think the recall of elected officials, because it's such a different process, right, like,
That's a legal process, it's
Right,
not a
that needs-
disciplinary process, so to speak.
right,
Or,
and it
you
needs
know,
to be codified.
I'm not a big fan of putting disciplinary things into this charter, I don't
Right.
wanna give it that, I don't wanna give it that, well, I don't wanna give that vibe either from people like, it's like, it's here to help you, not
Right.
like chase you,
And now with the advent of Zoom and everything, it's easier to participate.
To connect, yeah.
But, that was part of the rationale, I think, for the recall of appointed board and committee members.
Sure, okay.
That there's
So
an
are we in
avenue.
agreement just to leave that out and let the bylaw be the bylaw?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. So, we'll just take it out for now, Anthony. Thank you.
Great. So I've got nothing else for tonight. You're kind of at the tail end here.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Where do we go from here? We've got some things to check and clean up here and just review quickly at that next meeting. Where else?
I have one
Yep.
question. I thought we discussed at one point, how town buildings are used and who's in charge of them. So the libraries, I think, is a good example. Because the library's
I thought
upstairs.
I thought it was vested with the town administrator.
I think the library is one of the buildings because they have an elected board of trustees,
And it starts to get weird, right, over who's in charge of what?
yeah, I mean, I think ultimately and I don't know the legal pieces of library board of trustees. But I think am I right that that's the main,
Well, that's the example I was thinking of, yeah, is so where's the line of demarcation between this is town space and that's the library?
right,
Who's in charge of what?
This come up, I'm on the library board of trustees, so it's come up where the board of trustees ultimately have the say over use of the building, cause it's the library building. But the norm and the agreement, unspoken and not necessarily formalized in a contract, is that there are designated meeting spaces that the town uses.
Should there or could there be language in a charter that says?
I mean, I think it,
Under 4-3,
Oh.
so we put all the elected boards in the charter. So 4-3B says the Board of Library Trustees shall have custody of and manage the public library and all property of the town related to the library.
yeah,
Okay.
I thought we had gone back and forth about it. I couldn't remember if it was in charter stuff or in select board,
If we're talking about 4-3, that was what, a year ago?
I know.
Yeah, back in March, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, one of our next steps should be maybe to stop back at the beginning and just go quick through and see now that we've done some things differently, we start at the beginning, just quickly go through what we've already done.
Right,
And
I
then
think,
we can look at taking notes about this is why we did this, and this is what is new to the town, this is why we did this, so that we can present it to the town.
and I think we do need to start looking towards getting it in front of town.
Yeah.
Right.
Start the survey up. I think you could do what you're talking about, Michelle, while we run the survey simultaneously. We could be preparing
Because
to prepare to deal with the comments, and then ultimately a public, meeting on
And I
it.
think I may have missed the last meeting, I don't remember, but I know we had some questions about like the planning board terms, right? Like that there currently is an elected 5-year
The 3 to
term
5 year is one of the things I have in my notes right
that we
here
haven't
that
decided,
really is,
and-
We decided to change it, right, to make it align.
I don't remember I think we left it as it was, but it was a question we actually wanted to bring.
Right,
I think we want to articulate in the survey,
right.
is that, do you want a 3, right, presently we're a 5-year, do you want to make this a 3-year, or?
All the other
you know,
electeds are.
I'd like your feedback on that, like,
Right.
try to draw some feedback and data from the people
Yeah.
on their opinions of it.
Yeah.
Because we were kinda,
Right.
didn't really care either way, you know?
Right.
Plus, I think
It's just
Anthony was saying
weird.
towns are shifting to 3 years.
Right.
We're from 1947, we're
Right.
5-year term, like,
Right, and now
okay.
we have, I
Well,
mean,
that was, I
certainly
remember
something to
Keith-
look at and get some
I remember
information
Keith
back
saying
on.
It takes 5 years to get anything all squared away.
Yeah, you know, to get into it, to get used to it, it does,
Yeah.
there is a year
Also-
transition there at least,
Yeah.
I
right?
think,
Yeah.
but I think you can make that argument for select board, and now there's professional staff, right? Like, we have professional planner, we're hiring for, like,
Yeah.
that's another one of those positions, right? But we have professional staff in place now, and.
Good point with the town planner,
And so.
help people get up to speed quicker.
Like, I would argue for select board, like, the first 3 years, you're kind of learning the ropes, like, you're showing up, and if you're putting the time in, you're learning a lot. In a community like Rutland, I think there's other communities that people are all in and hit the ground running from the get-go, but Rutland
Yeah,
is
you've
not.
got experience, but I think that 1-year process, Leah,
Right.
you know, you gotta go through the whole year of,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, what the town government or any kind of business to get the whole full picture of managing
And
something.
then I would argue if you are showing the residents that you're putting the time in, regardless of what board or committee,
Yeah.
then after your 3 years and you decide to run again, then that should be a easy re-election for you. I mean,
Years
like, but,
if you want us to come back for more,
right, but I
you just
think,
hit the parachute.
but I think on the flip
Yeah,
side,
that's
we've
right.
had a lot of turnover recently on the planning board, and they hit that 3-year mark, and then they leave, because
They-
another 2 years is really, really hard. And so I think that was. some of the
Again,
other
let's
factors.
get the
It's-
feedback
you
on the
get
town,
more-
you're gonna see a lot of different
You get
angles.
more people
You know, is the
interested.
3-year commitment
Yeah.
better than a 5-year commitment, to your point, is,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, let's just see.
But I think before we can even get the survey ready, we need to kind of, just my thought is we need to be able to piece
Run through this
together-
quick and
run through it.
raise those, just finite some more of those questions
Right, this is why we
that
put
we
this,
want more
this is why-
drilled down
right,
data on.
Right, this is why we put this specific thing in there, this we have a question on, what would the,
You guys-
that's,
you guys
that's
up for
my,
that?
that's
Yeah.
my personal thing,
Yeah.
like, that's what
And then the
I
other
think the
thing
town would
too,
wanna
for like,
see.
the other thing too, for our reference, but also to inform the town, is we have the charter, but then things have come up in our work as a committee.
Right.
To say, actually, these are things, and I don't know if this would go to the town, but also the select board, TA, et cetera, say, here are things that would be good for the bylaw committee to consider.
Yes.
And these other offshoots that are not,
Recommendations.
that are not germane to the charter, but they're, you know,
Help
like,
function.
Yeah.
Right.
because we've seen many times in our work in the past almost year or whatever that Rutland, we're doing things a little bit out of order in so many ways,
Mhm.
but I feel like things are finally starting to kind of align, and it's still going to take some time,
Mhm.
like 5, 10, who knows how many, but like we're moving in that direction. So just understand, like, why do we need a charter? Well, actually, a lot of towns have it, and we probably should have it a long time ago. We're playing catch up.
Right.
Just kind of colloquial, like, ways of engaging the community, so it's not this mysterious, like, punitive, or like these other like
Right.
they're just ways that
We're just codifying all the laws you already have.
Yeah.
that you
Right.
wrote, Just,
Yeah, and to the argument, like, we have the bylaw, well, this protects your bylaw for 5 to 10 years now, so.
Right.
yeah,
you know, Protects your hard work,
Right.
the
And
work
the
that these people
bylaw,
put into it.
a lot of those bylaws at that review, the most recent review, that committee was looking towards, these are going to be pulled out to be in a charter. This is going, and a lot of, like, the town administrator piece, right, a lot of
Yeah.
the FinCom piece, that those were pulled
Yeah.
out, thinking, okay, we're not at a charter point yet, we
Right.
need to codify this.
Right.
We need to have something.
is that what other towns usually end up doing, Anthony? They get to the end and then,
I didn't hear the question.
well, we get to the end of what we're discussing for the charter and then kind of go back through it all.
Yeah, actually, that was, so I think someone had raised that question. So I would recommend, after you put in these last pieces of the transition, that the committee sort of itself, you guys did this halfway through, you guys had a meeting where you guys sat down with the charter and talked about it amongst yourselves to make sure you understood it.
Yeah, the first half,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I would definitely recommend doing that now to complete the whole thing, you can see the whole document.
Okay.
And that will actually help you writing the report that will go to the select board and the town meeting.
So I asked about how the names are placed on the ballots, and they don't have access right now, they said they'll look, but they don't think it's random, they think it's candidates for reelection and then alphabetical.
Oh.
But I guess in kind of Anthony and Becca, in your experience, what's kind of best practice? Because I think the pushback there is you're giving preferential to incumbents or those with a higher alphabetical falling, right? I don't,
Yeah, I would not say that I'm an expert on like elections and how they should be conducted, but I would say that what I do hear with the most common refrain is the randomness is preferred because no one is guaranteed a spot on the election. Like we're preferencing people with A names, or if we do reverse, people with W or Z names. So that's on the one hand. On the other side, what we do see a lot of communities doing is actively preferencing incumbents, so they'll have something in their chart around, incumbents will be placed first, or incumbents will have candidate for re-election next to their name.
Yep.
So that voters know that. So that's not in what I put. I put the most basic thing in front of you, but I would say, good practice or best, it's like saying best practice would be in some way to make sure that it's random, and then if you want to put other things around it, you could.
okay, so I'll get more information and send it around to the committee and everything, and then, I don't know, again, I don't know that we do incumbents, I'm pretty sure we have candidate for reelection or incumbent or something behind the name, but I honestly have no.
I think it is.
I think it's a re-election.
It's candidate for re-election or something.
And then, but I have no idea how they're placed, so it's something, and.
Talk to the clerk, we'll get some feedback on that, and then we'll
follow up.
discuss that, right? He'll clean up a few of these wording things, we'll go over those, and then we'll start the discussion of the complete charter review. All right, and after that, it'll be time to get the survey machine cranked up again. Get that out there, collect some of that data, review that, set up a town
Information session or two.
information session, thank you, yeah, right? And then hopefully we can have this thing ready to go by, when do we need to have this ready for the, to get this on the warrant, or
I think if we have it for the warrant, I don't know.
mid-April?
I don't know when the warrant will open and close, I feel like it's end of March maybe? 'Cause
End of
it's usually 45 days, I think it's, yeah, so.
So let's shoot for
and we would
mid-March, let's shoot for mid-March to get this
right,
wrapped up
and
then,
I
right?
think we just need
So,
the language
1,
for
2,
the.
3, that gives us
We
3
could do
months.
it as almost like a placeholder, but,
Okay.
we would need the language to
Alright.
even be able to place it and then go through the process.
But we don't have to have information sessions. We can do that between the time it goes on the warrant and the time of town meeting, is that correct?
No, we wanna have it all wrapped up, so we're not changing anything once it's on the warrant, correct?
Oh, okay.
This
Yeah,
is
right.
gotta be,
Well, we wouldn't be changing anything, we're gonna be, well, okay.
If you get information,
you'll look at it,
right?
There's a chance
You
it-
have
yeah.
to-
there's no reason, at that point, you just would let it ride, I mean,
Yeah, that's true. That's
there'd be a town meeting, we'll discuss it, and then
So we would
you could
have.
amend it at town meeting, I guess, but,
There are some,
One thing just on the timeline, and it's probably a question that's going directed towards Leah, is it sounds like KP Law is town council.
correct.
One thing that I've heard is that sometimes they will maybe push back a little bit, that they'll need more time to review things like this, and I've even heard them say to some communities that they may charge them extra money for reviewing a charter, so you may,
So we should reach out and find out how much time they're gonna want to review a charter,
yeah,
right? And then plug that into our timeline.
Yep.
Also the cost, it's not a bad idea just to prepare the town for that, is that something
yeah. I
you
think-
can
yeah.
do?
Because we got, I think we got a grant to fund the work with the Collins Center, but there's also a special article, approved at town meeting a few years ago, to fund charter work also, and I can't remember how all of the funding is working right now.
We're getting paid?
No. To fund, the Collins, and then, so I think we kept the
Is that,
special article money so
there
that
could
that
be some
way,
money for that review.
if there were, needed to be more,
How's the CIPC doing?
Some margin that just
Okay.
came up.
All right, so,
oh, sorry,
Yeah,
and
no.
I heard from, Anita said that it's incumbent first and then alpha by last name, is how it currently is.
okay,
So just,
Should be random.
I'd rather be random. As somebody with an early alphabet name and also my maiden name was a late alphabet name, I hate alphabetical order. I'd much rather see random.
I don't know,
And
man,
I think-
sometimes being last ain't so bad, right?
It's
Everybody's
not, but-
get beat up, or get whipped by the
I
nuns and I don't know what not to do.
I personally like
Kinda nice.
the random with the note of candidate for reelection
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or something. But I
How
don't.
often are there more than 3 people that are?
The other feedback I just got from them is if it's random, they're afraid it's gonna be too messy and they may leave off names by accident. But
Isn't
I
that
think
right, Nate?
the way it's outlined in the draft language that Anthony has, cause we weren't sure, that it's a public
Why would
process,
that be a problem?
right? And so it's posted as they're pulling names and everything, right? So we don't have like, generally we don't have 30
Mhm.
candidates for a position.
How, I don't understand that. How could you miss somebody?
It's
You gotta put
literally your
them in
job.
either way,
Yeah.
if it's alphabetical or not.
Well, I can see alphabetical being easier to manage,
Yeah.
you know,
Or
as you're
But
collecting the
like, okay,
information
we're
and
gonna get the
processing it.
ballots up.
You know, it's just easy to
Put
put
the
people
names
into
on
that
it, yeah, you're not
alphabetical thing,
gonna-
but
yeah.
I gotta be honest with you, I mean, I'm fine with alphabetical, I mean, your name's your name, it is what it is, like,
Mhm.
you're all on the paper.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't see the advantage, personally, I think that's just
Yeah.
kinda, I don't know, that, I'm just, whatever. I'll do whatever you guys wanna do, I have absolutely,
I don't know.
No,
I like random.
no.
It's kind of nice. You know, there's no favorites. So
Yeah.
I went from an F to a T. I don't know. I'm bitter about alphabet.
bitter about losing his spot.
And I think
16 letters.
I think there's a lot of election analysis that happens that can influence, and I don't think it's necessarily in Rutland, like in a small community, because almost everybody.
People just
But-
pick the first
Russian
name.
collusion in this
Yeah,
town.
it's the laziness.
Well,
You
watch
know,
out for
that's
this.
why it's that's why.
Right, and so I think, and that's like election analysis.
If you wanna do it random, I'm fine with random.
Mhm.
I personally like random with the note
With
of
notes.
candidate for reelection.
Yeah.
behind the name.
Incumbents first,
No, just behind
No, it's
the
random.
or
name.
just
The
random,
order
but
is
incumbents
random, but
are
They're
later.
noted.
I do think the incumbents must be noted, I think that's,
Right,
they
and
earned
whether
it.
it's incumbent or candidate, I kinda like candidate for reelection, I think it's just, but it's longer, right?
Sure, whatever, that would, yeah.
But,
Yeah,
whatever,
paper
but
and letter.
that might be a slightly.
So let me ask you a question though. You put this
but-
random thing in, how does this all work? I mean, like, you know, like, it's not, how, like.
I never thought, how do they get the ballots?
I mean, you know,
together?
are we gonna get a TV spot on, you know, like do the lottery, like it's all on
Well, I
TV?
think it would be
Like, how do
public.
you do a random thing in a town like this? Is it really
Yeah,
truly
it's
random?
how they get the.
Yeah, but if it's 2 people in a room, I mean, Jesus, they
No, I
can pick
think
anything
it's
out they
a
want.
it's a publicly posted meeting, and whether you
Okay,
can do
right, so it's a
it
public meeting.
Right.
Alright, wow.
And
So
whether
we get
you,
the little book.
there's a whole lot of randomizing websites that you can use, or
Yeah.
literally because you just put names in a hat,
Yeah.
like literally names in a hat and
Yeah.
draw them.
That's what I figured it was.
Yeah.
But me too, that's, I mean,
But
Hey,
But I think-
ChatGPT
I
randomizes
think if I
this.
saw in the draft language that Anthony had, is that it's done at a publicly posted
Okay.
time, so the public is
Alright.
able to attend. It doesn't have to be an official public meeting, but it's publicly posted, this is when
Mhm.
we're doing this, so anybody that wants to show up can.
so is that a select board's meeting?
That would be town clerk.
So the
Right.
town clerk could say, Monday at 1 PM, we're randomizing names, show up if you wanna.
And you gotta notify everybody in the town now, that's not just, you know, the few people around a lot of land,
If
you
you
gotta notify
post it on
everybody in
it.
town.
Yeah,
Post
What's
it
the
on the
cost of that?
website, isn't
No,
that?
it would just
yeah.
be, well, and Becca and Anthony, right now, this is the other thing, right now the clerk is elected. When the clerk, when she either loses an election or retires, then that becomes a hired for / appointed position. So does that change the process at all? No,
No.
Are we talking about, still talking about ballot position?
Yeah. cause it's still the town clerk's office, right?
The town clerk, what Leah said was that right now the town clerk is elected, but when this person that is our current town clerk retires, it's already written into the bylaws, or
It was approved at town meeting.
approved at
as
town
another-
meeting,
I don't know if
that
it was a special act.
going forward, it will be an appointed position. So what Leah said was, does that change any of this?
I would think
That an
so.
appointed person to,
The ballot position, it wouldn't, because you've got vested with the town clerk to do it, I mean.
It's still the
I guess
process.
you could put something in here if you want, but it wouldn't, no, the short answer is no.
It still is a power afforded to the clerk's office.
I guess I'm just trying to say, if we're gonna do this as a random thing, do we have to have a bylaw that tells how you do this? I mean, what, like,
Well, I
we
think
have,
that that's it would be in the charter.
Right now, you don't have anything, so the clerk just does it
Right.
based on,
based on alphabetical, obviously right now.
And
They
that's
can do it
kind of a
however.
policy decision, so if if you left it blank, they would just continue to do whatever their best, they decide themselves, it sounds like they decide themselves. What you put in the charter is how they're supposed to do it in by which they do it is up to them to decide.
Okay, so just a public, at a public meeting or public hearing, whatever you wanna, whatever the wording is.
This language specifies the day. It says it happens on the next business day following the last day for withdrawals.
Yeah,
So it's not any day,
Okay,
it's that day.
alright,
But
that's
if
The
we
good.
say
time is not
random,
specified.
we just say random, they can figure out how they wanna make it random.
Yeah, this doesn't specify how,
But we should specify that it's a public
that it needs to be.
event,
Open to the public.
open to the
it says
public.
it is, yeah.
It does, it says it is?
A notice of which shall be published on the town bulletin board.
Which is the website and the physical bulletin board.
Is there a timeline we gotta give to notify people?
No, I mean.
You know, like
Well,
right
the
now, I know
timeline's
you
in the
have to like,
charter.
for like town planning boards and zoning boards, you know, it's gotta get out there like 15 days before you have the hearing. So enough time for people to get the notices.
No, cause it's in the bylaw that, or the charter that it's that last, the day after, which I think is pretty standard because the timeline is pretty tight. You have the time to withdraw, and then that's your list of candidates.
Okay.
And then you need to get the ballots to the printer and everything.
Quickly.
So that timeline makes
Okay.
sense.
Alright,
And I would just say it would be communicated to
It'll be
any
an understatement.
candidate, because candidates are probably the ones that are most vested in the process, but, so generally,
Yeah.
when you return your papers, they say, okay, just remember that the drawing's gonna be at, I'm gonna say, arbitrarily, 1 o'clock on
Yeah.
whatever day.
Yeah.
And if you wanna attend, you're more than welcome, then it's publicly posted everywhere that it's also
Okay.
that process.
and I think that's enough, like you said, however they do it randomly, they can, whether it's a hat or you get a little thing, whatever, or you do a computer thing, a chat, whatever.
And I think there's people,
Whatever.
like, a lot of things that the clerk's office does can be, like, if the public wants to witness things, they're more than willing to witness things.
You can jump on a Zoom, watch it on Zoom, whatever.
Most of it's in person, like, you
Yeah.
know, because they're not gonna set up Zoom over there to do it. you
Well,
know,
I'm
they-
saying if it's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I mean, I couldn't make it.
Right.
I'm at work.
Right.
So if I'm a candidate, I wanna be able to watch it, that it's random,
I think,
right? I mean, I wanna see it on Zoom,
I don't think it's gonna be on Zoom, to be honest, I don't know for sure.
so
but-
that's not a true public,
But all of our meetings aren't, I mean, by
You don't
law,
need Zoom.
we don't have to,
You don't have to
we
have
don't
Zoom
have
by
to
law.
provide Zoom by law.
yeah, alright.
You just have to be able to, it has to be open, anyone from the public needs to be able to walk in and.
You better take the day off, my friend.
What do
You
you
can
run
have,
it for?
you can have a representative.
Nothing.
If
I'm just putting myself in that position,
No,
trust me,
no.
good lord, I ain't running for anything.
But you can have a representative be there, and, you know, you can't be there, but I'm gonna ask my kid to be there, or I'm gonna ask my grandparent to be there, I'm gonna ask my best friend to be there. You, like, you could have a representative there.
Until such time that the state says meetings have to be on Zoom, which they're considering, is that correct? Is that,
I think it's part of the Municipal Empowerment Act,
so,
still has not been
has not
adopted
been
yet.
passed, so in that case, then the town clerk would do it on Zoom.
Alphabetical's a lot simpler, that's all
I
I'm
think
saying.
we beat that up pretty good.
We did.
Well,
Well-
that's a little
You
bit
know,
different
that's
though,
like the whole
because the
Okay.
town clerk is not a committee. or
Right.
Oh,
board,
okay, sure.
Right,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah.
the language in the Municipal Empowerment Act is about board and
Okay.
committee
Mhm.
meetings,
Public
so
body.
it's a public, yeah, so it's a little bit
Oh,
different.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So we'll use next meeting to run through this thing?
Yeah, so we just clean up the last few things that we gotta do, and then, start running through the beginning of the charter to the end.
And jot
Um,
down ideas for,
Start creating,
survey
yep, get the
questions
survey.
and feedback, like,
Yep.
oh, we as a committee need to make a decision about that.
Yep. Start creating a survey, and then any other questions beyond what's just written in the charter, or highlight certain things if you'd like them certain ways, we can create all that. And then, just real quickly here, I know it's getting late, so I received an email from, Anita in the clerk's office this week, the other day. I guess there's been, there was some complaints received by some concerned citizens or whatever, that our agendas are not detailed enough and our meeting minutes are not detailed enough. Not really sure where or how or why where this is coming from. I took it, I was kinda pissed, I'm not gonna lie, alright, but I
Oh,
gave
that's
it,
specific?
this charter
Oh,
committee,
wow.
yeah, no,
Oh,
towards this charter committee. One thing, I was still putting on there the 40, like any other business, 48 hours, and I guess town council said, can't do that no more. So I screwed up on that, and I told Nita, no problem. I'll
Oh,
take that off my
There's a
agenda.
lot of us that did that can't do
All
that
right,
anymore.
shame on me, no
But-
problem.
Oh, I didn't, I.
Whatever you want on the
that's
thing,
what I
I'll put
read
on
the
anything you
email
want.
as.
But,
Hey, all you people that volunteered your time, we don't appreciate the way you
well,
volunteer.
you know, I put that in there, and I says, I think you guys have done a tremendous job. You're trying to juggle coaching. I mean, you've had your daughter here for 2 hours, torturing her poor kid here.
Yeah, she ain't coming back.
Leah's running from work and from, you guys tonight, running from your kids' concert, you don't wanna miss that stuff, it just kinda irked me that these people who have never shown up are gonna sit there and critique us, so
Okay,
I
so-
politely said, we'll do the best we can, I don't care if you do any better detail, I think your detail's good enough personally,
You
I don't know
know,
what the committee thinks.
I kept it that way.
I will try to detail the agenda a little more, but I did say that, some of the
If those folks
information,
have a problem, then
They
they can
can,
come.
they can,
I told them,
Yeah,
you want the keys to
exactly.
the,
Anyway, is that
to the
recording?
driver's car here, take it over, do a better job than me,
You know?
I want the best for the town,
Yeah.
take my job. So, I'm just putting it out there, letting y'all know, okay, I'm not too worried about it, I squashed it, I stood up for us, and I told them where they can go, pretty much politely as I could. And I want it to be on public, if you're hearing me, hey, you're hearing it from me, to you, whoever you are, that you're hearing it from my lips. No emails from anybody else, if anybody's got a problem with me, you just come on down here, I'll talk to you face to face. I will not talk about you behind your back, or will complain to any clerk or anybody to do my dirty work for me. I'll do it myself, and I'll certainly stand up and fight for you guys, because this committee's done a fantastic job. The effort you put in, the chemistry you have, it's fantastic, and personally, I've never known any of you, and I think that's the best part about it, so,
Yeah.
for all it is, that's all I'm saying about that, all right? The next meeting, though, we are getting kicked out, we had that meeting set up, now, moving on to another agenda item, it was supposed to be the 8th, Thursday the 8th,
Yeah.
but Tamika said, sorry, Chris, the finance committee and the select board are having a big powwow and they need this room. You guys are out, so second fiddle, I get it, whatever. We're not as important as
Shouldn't
them.
the library board of trustees?
Should pull some strings for us.
That doesn't make any sense,
but-
now that after reading that, upon reading that, it doesn't make sense how we get bumped
But-
if it's,
But in
that really
if there are
doesn't make sense.
multiple conflicts where multiple meetings have to take place, we can see if there's another. place
So
to-
Tamika
But
did,
also-
Tamika did say Wednesday night, the night before, the 7th, that there's a room over there open with Zoom, the small room over there.
And I think that.
So is Anthony Becker, is everybody available to do that? That Wednesday night?
For,
Is it
Wednesday the
January?
7th, Anthony.
for 6:30, same time.
Yeah, let me see her email, I think she said Wednesday 7th won't work. She just says the 7th, I'm assuming 6:30, yeah.
I don't have
It'll be
hockey
open.
practice.
I can do it,
Yeah, but
and
Leah,
I'm
you were gonna
probably
say
not,
something?
I don't
Are
know.
you
I don't
good,
know what
Anthony?
I don't know what my work schedule is yet.
you can do the 7th, great.
Leah was gonna say something too.
No, I was just gonna say, I think doing it opposite nights, because even like on Thursday nights, a lot of times FinCom meets, and I think that FinCom and Charter are big we hope that they're big public interest meetings also. Now that we're recorded, the recording is available on YouTube and public access, so
Yeah.
that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I think trying to not schedule this Charter Committee meeting for the night that it's a big, because that meeting, the Thursday night Select Board FinCom meeting is budget stuff.
Yeah.
For the fiscal year 27 budget,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's a
Yeah,
big.
it was a
like-
big thing, she said,
Right.
and I
So-
understood, listen,
right, no, but I just wanted to
you know.
say, like, I think we try to be mindful of,
Yeah.
you can't not have meetings with other boards and committees, but also hopefully there's public interest in this meeting and there's public
I mean,
interest.
if you guys wanna switch to Wednesdays, if that's better for everybody,
Oh, and how many more meetings are we gonna have though?
well, I don't think that many, because honestly, when you think about this next meeting, right? Will we get through the whole charter the next meeting? Maybe, let's say we don't. Let's say we need one more to tidy that review of the charter up. And then we're gonna have to have a meeting or two one meeting will get the survey set up after that point. Then we put the survey out there, we get that data, another meeting to kinda get ready for that. And then we get the townspeople, and then probably another meeting after that, right? So, you know,
6, 7.
right, the most, I mean, probably 4 to 5, I think we could probably have this ready to go onto the warrant, in my opinion. So, if you get that one in January, bang on another one later in January, now we're pretty much ready for the survey in February. Give that a 3-4 week thing, and then we can kinda go through that data early March, we got it ready by the end of March.
Right,
you
and I
know, to
need
get on the
look
warrant,
back
if we're
at the
shooting for that
warrant.
end of March
And I
timeframe.
need to look back at the warrant timeline.
Yeah,
I
work
don't-
on, we can discuss that
Yeah,
next,
yeah.
we'll have plenty of time, but,
Yeah,
you know, again, if you got a couple in January, a couple in February, and one in early March, that's 5 meetings, and we could probably have this wrapped up, ready for a warrant by then. You know,
So-
with maybe a 6, just to tidy something up quick just before last second, that shouldn't be a big deal. And I think these meetings will go a little quicker, I mean, this was a 2-hour festival tonight, but we banged through a lot of stuff and kinda caught up, so it feels really good
Yeah.
personally, because I felt like we were getting our butts kicked here over the last month or two, I just didn't like no progress with
The final.
stuck in the mud here. I wanna keep moving here.
All right, so
So
6:30 on the 7th.
6:30 to 7th, everybody's good.
Works for me.
I'll book that with Tamika.
My boss is doing the schedule right now, so I don't know. I think we
Okay.
stop the 3rd. My schedule only goes to the 3rd.
Okay. All right, so hope Barbara feels better.
Motion to,
Yeah, anything else? Any other discussion lastly before we pack it in? Okay, motion to close,
Second,
seconded, all in favor?
I.
Aye. Anthony Becker, great job tonight, thank you very much. Appreciate it as always.
Clean also.
See you till later.
Becca, have,
Do you have
yeah.
a?
Oh my God, that's.
6.
Oh,
You too.
finger.
Thank you.